All right, how I added 40 bands, $40,000 to an e-commerce brand, to their email revenue in a month, basically in 30 days. No BS. What actually works? I wanted to make this brief guide because I was getting a lot of questions on how I did it. I have done it for other brands since this. And also, this is just something I know I would have liked to known when I was just starting out working with e-commerce brands. So I thought I'd make a brief video on it. This is not really meant to be a step-by-step guide. I know, like, all the videos you want to watch are step-by-step guides. I think you probably, if you're watching this video, you already know how to use Klaviyo. You already know basic email stuff. This is meant to be just a summary of what actually works. All right, 80 to 90% of the email marketing pie, that's what is the needle moving stuff, like what actually drives revenue, compared to just setting up a bunch of fancy segments and flows. And it's a lot of wasted energy. What actually makes the difference with brands that I work with and audit. There we go. So here's a screenshot before and after, just to show you what things look like before I started working with them. They were already a 7-figure brand. They were just doing pretty poorly in the email department, like 10%, somewhere around there, attributed to Klaviyo. And this is just email. They do not run SMS on Klaviyo. They use a different software. And then 30 days later, over $50,000 in attributed conversions. So not bad. Pretty good case study. How'd I do it? Number one, and hands down, the most underappreciated thing in all of retention marketing, in my opinion, at least in the e-commerce space, is your pop-up form, whatever you want to call it, the form that you get people's information off of. As scandalous as that sounds, that is the most important thing, because that's step one. How many people are you able to get in contact with? And most brands that I audit, their pop-up form is dog shit. It performs really bad. And it's not to say they don't have opportunity for it to perform better, because they have tens of thousands of people, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people looking at their site every month. And they're just like, yeah, we'll just keep it with the 2% conversion. Like, bro, get it to 10. What if it was 10%? That's 5xing your welcome flow revenue right there, theoretically. But, generally speaking, that's how it works. So beforehand, this is their pop-up form. Looks pretty lame, right? I mean, the incentive is there, at least. It's not confusing. There's some things that are good about it, but 3% is still pretty bad. Whereas after lots of A/B testing versus micro commit and normal and different styles, different size fonts, different size buttons, got to this one. This one performs at over 13%. Just normally. This is not during Black Friday or anything. Over 13% normally. There's a brand I work with right now that converts over 21%. You can have pop-up forms converting 30%. Like, I'm sure if the brand is small and high engaging, the conversion rate can be really high. All right, sorry. Went off on a little tangent there. Had to drink some Diet Coke to calm myself down. I just got excited because the point is your pop-up form could probably use work, and just A/B test it, right? Just A/B test it. Start with what you have, add a new variation that you think would perform potentially better, and assuming it does, stick with that one and test it against something new. There's lots of guides out there in terms of pop-up form, but you can just see right here why this one performs better. It just pops more, right? The incentive is clear as day. There is not a massive X button right here that is just like anyone would click that immediately. I would. I'm just conditioned to click that because there's so many stupid ad pop-ups, right? Don't make yours look like a stupid ad pop-up. Remove the X, put the no thanks, I'd rather pay full price, something like that down here, and also make it so they can just click off the form if they want to. That way, it won't hurt your site conversions. People will engage more with the form. And they're also, a good pop-up form with a good incentive isn't going to piss anyone off. They're like, dope, mystery discount. I wonder what it is. Like, let me put in my email. I want to find out what it is. So that's why it works so well. Let's move to the next slide here if I can figure out how to do it. Another thing is splitting your pop-up forms. What do I mean by that? Just split, have the same form active for desktop, have the same form active for mobile, but have them separate forms in Klaviyo. The reason that's so important is because it's two different, like wildly different customer journeys. It's different looking at an email on your phone or a pop-up form than it is on desktop. And you're also just going to have different amounts of people and different kinds of people coming from mobile than on desktop. Generally speaking, it's going to be way more people coming from mobile because more people are just on their phones more often. So usually your mobile pop-up form is the one you want to focus on and the one you really want to get that percentage up because it's just more of the people on your site, right? So as you can see for these guys, 12.5% in this screenshot for the mobile. Desktop a little bit lower, which is fine. 6% still okay. We want to try to get that higher, but it's just way less people seeing the form. So this is a pretty standard ratio that I see with like modern day e-commerce brands is having the desktop form perform a little bit worse. So don't be like, oh, something's wrong if the desktop form is performing a little bit worse. That's typical, but it's important to split the flows up so you can actually see. Whereas if everything's together, you don't really know what's going on, and it's hard to optimize much of anything, much less a desktop compared to mobile. So that's important to do. Now, the pop-up form is great and all, but if it doesn't lead to a pretty high converting email, then it doesn't really matter. So that first email in the welcome flow, I have found to be talk about portion of the pie. That is a big portion of the pie, possibly 40, 50%. If that pop-up form goes from 2% to 10%, 5x the amount of submits, and it leads to a beautiful welcome email like this one, whereas the one before looked like this one, makes all the difference in attributed revenue and total revenue, right? You can just, you don't have to be Einstein to see why this one converts better than this one. With that being said, test it, right? No harm in A/B testing it. Maybe for whatever reason, this one performs better, but it won't, okay? Having a button high up that's very clear and obvious, a very skimmable email that shows the products, makes it easier for the person to choose a product rather than if they look at the website, they might be like, oh, I don't know which one to get. This one's like, here's our best sellers. Click the bag you want. Literally listing out for people why they should buy. Just make it as easy as possible on them. 14 days of outfits, carry-on approved, wrinkle-free, easy to pack, premium materials, shop the incentive. Whereas this one, it's like all over the place. It's still there, but it's packaged wrong, and the buttons are not well placed. There needs to be a button higher up, and it needs to be clear. So, should be obvious as to why this welcome email is performing better than this one, and how that makes up such a big portion of the total conversion pie of email marketing when in tandem with a high converting pop-up form. Another thing I wanted to mention is flows that people often don't have. All right, in this case, these flows didn't exist. Those flows would be abandoned cart, abandoned site. I don't think I've ever audited an account that has an abandoned site. Maybe once or twice, but most people might have an abandoned browse and they might have an abandoned cart, but almost no one has an abandoned site. And it's lower intent, so for this brand, last 30 days, obviously makes less money, but over the course of 12 months, that adds up, right? Thousands of dollars left on the table if you don't have an abandoned site. The trigger is active on site, so have the abandoned site. If you don't have the abandoned browse, then you're really screwing up. You need the abandoned browse. Most brands have this nowadays, but if you don't, look at the numbers, at least for this brand, and this is pretty typical. Abandoned browse is up there with the abandoned cart and checkout because people get cold feet, or they forget about the product they're looking at, or they don't get paid till next week or whatever. You need to remind them. So having the abandoned browse is really good at that. They view the product, and they'll be sent a bunch of emails reminding them our product's awesome, buy it. That's why it converts so well. Then this one's more obvious, but still I see brands that don't have it. They'll just have the abandoned checkout. They won't have the abandoned cart. Most of the time, if you've done any research in email marketing, most people will tell you, make sure you have the abandoned cart trigger along with the abandoned checkout. As you can see for these guys, it performs significantly better. And if you think about it, it makes sense. It's one step less than abandoned checkout. More people will add to a cart than go all the way to checkout. So make sure you have at least these 6 core flows. And this isn't even counting win back, sunset, there's other fancy flows you could have. But these are like the basics. Make sure you have these in place. And then, last 2 points here. Number 1 is simplicity wins. A lot of times brands have too much going on. There's a lot of fancy segments. There's a lot of words. They're trying to do too much at once. Look how simple this email is. Is this the highest converting email in the world? No, but it's just an example of an email that converts just fine, and there's no discount incentive. All it's doing, this is an abandoned cart email, is just saying you literally forgot to buy this. It's just it's almost like a text message reminder. I've kept your picks on hold. Complete your order. 50% opens, 0.2% placed order. I'm not mad at that. I think that's pretty good. Could be better, possibly. But especially with a brand like MFI, which is a little bit more drop shippy, not a lot of recurring customers. This is I'm happy with this email. This is great. So always start with the basics, start with simplicity, see how that performs, move from there. All right, the last thing I wanted to touch on is the post-purchase opportunity. I feel like most people have a post-purchase flow because it's intuitive. Someone ordered, you want to send them your order's on the way. There's just a big gap between converting people, following up with them after they've ordered, because they're still in the buying window. They're still a warm purchaser. They might order again. And a lot of times they were thinking about buying something else for their mom or dad or themselves or whatever the case may be. They just were like, I'll be more conservative. So an email as simple as this, which just, your order means the world. Thank you. We're a mother-daughter team. You're amazing. Make it genuine. It doesn't actually have to be just fluff. But then the important part is at the end, you have a sneaky call to action, like a PS that invokes some curiosity. It says, this is my favorite of ours right now, or this item's flying off the shelves right now. Or it could say, this is my favorite item that we have. It's so much so I can't leave home without it. Something like that makes the person want to click. And I'm sure you know, and if you don't, you should. Everyone reads the PS section. And you can see 7% click-through rate on an abandoned cart or a post-purchase email is pretty good. That's pretty high click-through rate. So always make sure, at least test your post-purchase opportunity to see if you can convert people. And it could be an email as simple as this one right here. All right, so that's it. I hope you found some value from it. Again, it was not designed to be a video, a step-by-step how to do things. Just if you're a brand owner or trying to help brands do this sort of thing, convert more of their email list, these are the things that I found to be the most impactful, move the needle the most. If you're interested in talking to me about it and see how I could help your brand out, or if you just want advice on it, I offer all of my initial audits for free, no strings attached. It could literally be an hour long. Sometimes I do hour-long free audits for people. And we can hop on a Zoom call, and I basically just go through your Klaviyo account with you and give you my list of suggestions, more advanced stuff than what I've gone over in this video here. And if we want to work together after that, we can. If not, it's completely fine. Other than that, if you have a question, you can leave it in the comment section below. I'll also leave my Twitter and stuff like that. You can DM me on there. I think that's it. So have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.